Is there really a secret to living longer? Well, medical science has been making groundbreaking discoveries for a long time, showing people things they couldn't even imagine before. People have always been interested in how to live longer.
Everyone is interested in the idea that they could live longer. What if we could live longer? Is it really possible, realistically? In other words, what if we could avoid the early deaths that are not uncommon today? Based on the results of the most recent study, which took place over the course of 34 years, it is now proven for a fact that it is possible to live longer.
So what does this study show? How can you live longer? Does this study give you a way to do that you can follow? In this video, we'll show you the secret to living longer. You'd like to know, wouldn't you?
Alright then, let's get started. Up until now, medicine has given up on solving the biggest health problem, death. Every disease could be found and treated in some way, shape or form. Even if a disease is hard to understand, at least doctors can try to cure a sick person with a reasonably good chance of succeeding. But when we're talking about death, because it is so inevitable, it is much like a terminal disease, albeit one with no cure. Doctors have thought of death as a hard end that science can't change for thousands of years. Doctors have been haunted by early deaths when they happened, especially to premature infants, and there was nothing they could do.
However, doctors and other medical professionals all over the world agreed on one thing. Death has a lot to do with the diet one eats throughout their lifetime. What a person eats can play a role in determining how old they will be when they die. This was the idea that one of the longest studies on longevity was based on, when it began about 34 years ago.
But what did this study look at, and what did it actually find? Before we go on, tell us if you like the topic of this video. If so, please like and share the video. And subscribe to our channel for more videos with natural health advice and tips. Let's continue now.
Over 75,000 women and 44,000 men took part in the study. Each of them followed one of 4 healthy eating patterns. This study was all about seeing how a person's diet and food choices play a critical role in determining how old they would live. In other words, the people who did the experiments wanted to know why 2 people with different diets could have different lifespan. It's unlikely for someone who eats bad food to live longer naturally than someone who eats well. But no one had previously conducted an experiment to test this idea, likely because it would shorten the lifespan of the persons involved in such an experiment.
One of the reasons why people aren't used in experiments is due to the issue of time. To find out how diet affects the rate of mortality, one would have to experiment for a lifetime. Because of this, mice, pigs, monkeys, and other animals are used in the experiments instead of people.
But in this experiment, the test subjects had to be real people. The Nurses' Health Study kept track of what 75,000 women ate. In the Health Professionals' Follow-Up Study, which went on for more than 34 years, 44,000 men were looked at. All of the people who took part had to come back every 4 years and fill out a questionnaire about what they ate. Some of the participants smoked, but none of the women or men had heart disease. This could be a test to see how well different diets protect against heart diseases. The World Health Organization says that heart disease kills 17.9 million people every year, which is 32% of all deaths around the world.
Every 36 seconds, someone in the US dies from heart disease or stroke. So, if the people in the study didn't have cardiovascular diseases, but developed them later, it could have been because of how they ate. At the same time, the eating habits of the people who didn't get heart disease can also be examined.
It is a huge challenge to keep track of and report on an experiment that would last for more than 34 years. Experts in health and science showed their astonishment by accepting that this is one of the longest and biggest experiments ever done to find out how diet affects the mortality rate. Here is how the experiment ran.
The people who took part were told to follow one of 4 diet plans. Here's how the researchers put the people in the study into the 4 diet groups. The first type of diet is the Mediterranean diet. People on this diet eat a lot of fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, fish, beans, whole grains, and lots of olive oil.
The second type of diet is the healthful plant-based diet. On this diet, a person eats more plant-based foods and no animal products or alcohol. It's important to note that this diet pattern discourages not only unhealthy animal products, but also healthy ones like fish and dairy. Potatoes and other unhealthy plant foods are also discouraged in this eating plan. From these 2 diet patterns, vegetarians are on the higher end of the diet score scale, while the people who eat products made from animals are on the lower end.
The third diet pattern focuses on healthy plant-based foods, not just any plant-based foods, and discourages red and processed meat, added sugars, fats, and alcohol. At the same time, the fourth diet pattern is pretty flexible. A person who follows this pattern eats foods and nutrients that lower the risk of getting chronic diseases. It included things like seeds, whole grains, nuts, less red meat, and drinks. Alcohol is not totally frowned upon, and people can drink a moderate amount of it.
What were the surprising findings of the experiment? The participants were put into 4 groups based on their diet patterns, but after the scores were added up, they were put into 5 separate groups called quintiles. This was done based on whether or not they followed one or more diet patterns. The results of the experiment showed that the people whose diets were better had a 20% lower chance of dying from any cause.
In other words, people who ate healthy plant-based diets and stuck to them had a 20% lower chance of dying than those who ate an animal-based diet and improving it. The results also made it clear that high-risk chronic diseases could be avoided if the diet was improved and made the same as what the higher group in the experiment ate. That means that you don't have to start eating a healthy diet the day you are born. Chronic diseases that lead to death can be avoided if you can change it right now.
Not all of the participants followed the diet plans to the letter. Some of them just made small changes that made their diets healthier. Those who changed their diets by 25% had a 6 to 13% lower risk of dying from heart disease and a 7 to 18% lower risk of dying from cancer.
There was also a 7% drop in neurodegenerative diseases like dementia. The death rate from chronic respiratory diseases dropped by 35 to 46%, which was a huge improvement. So then, what can we learn from this experiment?
Well, the answer is simple. You can always change your eating habits to avoid chronic diseases, and it is never too late to start doing that. You can avoid dying too young and getting chronic diseases to a large extent by eating better. You don't have to stick to just one diet, because you may eventually get tired of it. So, choose a diet that is flexible or make your own. However, add more plant-based foods and less red and processed meat. Choose diets with less sugar, even if you can't stop eating sugar completely.
So, no matter which diet you choose, you should pay close attention to the following 4 important things.
1. Eat more foods made from plants. 2. Eat less red and processed meat. 3. Eat fewer foods that are high in sugar. 4. Eat less food that is high in sodium.
If you stick to this kind of diet, you can cut your risk of dying early by up to 20%. The research from this study shows that this is the case.
Did you know that it's possible for you to live longer? You don't have to do something drastically different for that to happen. Instead, you just need to make sure you eat a healthy plant-based diet and cut down the sugar and salt. If you want further details on the study as reported by CNN, the news network, please visit the description section right below for a link to the news article.
So, let us ask you this. Do you think you can make the above-mentioned dietary changes in your life to live longer like the thousands of people who took part in the study? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd really like to know.
Want to see more videos just like this one? If so, please click the bell icon and subscribe to our channel to get more videos and tips about your natural health and how to care for it. Stay tuned for our next video.